Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to another Why I Love Wakfu video. Yeah, this is the February video. As you know, we're kind of doing this on a monthly basis now, just to make it a little easier on me. So this is the February video for Why I Love Wakfu, and today we're talking about the content of the series and how it bridges maturity levels. So as you know, pretty much any cartoon or any anime or any movie or game out there, they have maturity levels. That's why movies will have like ratings. Even TV shows have ratings to them, and video games as well. You can go play something like Mortal Kombat, which has a M for mature rating, or you could play something like Hat in Time, which has E for everyone. I believe Hat in Time is E for everyone. I don't know. There's some adult jokes in there, but they're kind of appropriately handled. I don't know. You get the point. You can watch something like MCU movies, which are geared towards teenagers. Or, fuck it, you could watch porn, which is obviously A for adult. For obvious reasons. But the point is that a lot of shows out there have maturity ratings. And the thing with Wakfu is I don't actually know what its maturity rating is supposed to be. I assume it's probably like in the teenage range, which is where I would kind of label it. Because here's the thing, Wakfu bridges maturities. It's a bridge for that. It kind of goes between a series that is clearly childish in a lot of ways, in a lot of nature, a lot of its nature. But there's also parts that are extremely adult-oriented. A lot of parts that are very scary, very intense, very shocking, and even some parts that are so hard to watch they make you extremely uncomfortable, to the point where you almost have to turn off the episode because you're shaken by it. And I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, you see a lot of it to where there's a lot of parts in the series that are pretty childish, pretty simplistic, something that anyone can kind of get into. There are parts that have a lot of goofy humor, a lot of childish stuff going on with it, a lot of just, again, something anyone could get into, and it kind of starts off that way. A lot of the early stuff is a lot more all ages friendly. But eventually it starts getting more and more adult oriented as the series goes on. To a scene where there's Ava and Amalia in a bath, their nudity only being covered up by a conveniently placed rubber ducky, which is kind of become a meme in its own right. To the fact that in season 3, there is a scene that is so intense, shocking, and uncomfortable that it actually almost fucked me up. I'm not lying here. I'm not joking. And any of you who watched my season 3 reactions know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those of you who may have not, the part where Toxine stabs Ava in her pregnant stomach and she lets out that scream. That scream fucked me up. I am not joking. Like, that scream stays with me to this day. Because it legitimately shook me that bad. I mean, just the act of Toxine doing that was horrifying in and of itself. But, the scream she let out was so visceral that it's definitely clear at that point that this is not a show for kids. In fact, that was actually a part that even made me question whether this was a show for teenagers. Honestly, I'm shaking right now just thinking about that. Holy shit. But there are parts in this series, no joke, that are like that. There are parts that are really intense and scary. There are parts that get into some real heavy stuff as well. And there's even some parts that kind of get a little sexual. in nature. Like I believe in season 3 as well, there's this part where we see all of these characters like kind of going through this time dilation stuff, and we see Ellie, Ava and Tristapin's daughter. We see her age rapidly to the point where she becomes an adult, and it kind of focuses on her figure, including her breasts, and it's very adult in nature, but not obviously not to the point where it would be banned from television. It's just kind of adult in nature in terms of like, oh yeah, that's not for kids. But again, there's parts in this series that are very clearly childish as well. A lot of the early stuff with how Yugo acts, for example. The entire Ugly Princesses episode is very childish in nature. Although there are some more adult references even in that. But I like that. I like that this show bridges maturity, that it kind of, especially in the way it handles it, how it starts off very childish and cute and friendly, and as the series goes on, especially in later season 2 and then especially season 3, and of course the OVAs, can't forget those. But I like how it goes on, it kind of builds up into something much more mature, and it kind of goes along with the characters in that way, because the characters mature and grow and become a lot more serious and intense as the series progresses as well. The concept of this show doing this so well is also almost unheard of. Like, here's the thing. Other shows have done this kind of thing too. Steven Universe has done this as well, but with Steven Universe, it's more like in the first couple seasons, you either had episodes that were extremely childish and dumb and silly, or you had episodes that were extremely mature and intense and emotional. You had one or the other. And then after that, in the next few seasons, it started to get much more serious in nature, with a lot more of the silly stuff taking the back seat with fewer and fewer episodes, to the point where in season 5 it's pretty much unheard of. And it's done in a completely different way. With Wakfu, it feels more natural, because it feels like it just kind of happened and you don't know when or how. But when you look back on it, you realize that it had been building. Episodes had been growing darker and darker, had been growing more mature in nature. Again, you don't even realize it's happening because it's so subtle that once it's happened, you start to realize, wait, when did this become such a mature show? But then again, you look back at it and you realize, no, it kind of built up to this. And it's true. And there are some parts, even in season 1 of Wakfu, that are definitely more mature. I mean, Tristapin's sacrifice at the end was extremely maturely handled. And though I still acknowledge that it was terribly retconned in season 2, I still think it was it was an excellent scene, nonetheless, that really showed how the maturity started to bridge, started to move into that more adult nature. And whether or not we get a season 4 is completely irrelevant to this discussion. Now, if we do get a season 4, I do believe it will continue to be in the more mature part of things. But with the 3 seasons and the OVAs we've got thus far, we could see that bridging maturity in such an excellent way. And another example of it is in season 3 with what they do with Yugo and Amalia and their relationship. And heck, with Ruel and his wife's relationship. Relationships are actually extremely important in season 3, and the way they're handled are super mature. I'd say the least mature thing is the way Amalia acts a couple times, but honestly, the reason she's acting like that is more mature and adult. It comes across as like, yeah, this is like a legitimate thing going on that kids won't understand. Kids won't understand why Amalia is so upset. They won't understand what is going on with Yugo and what's going through his mind. This is stuff that, honestly, there's some adults that wouldn't fully grasp it. It's big, heavy stuff. And it's sometimes it's a little irritating to watch, admittedly, but in the end, it's really excellently done. And this is one of the reasons why I love Wakfu, because it's able to do this in such a well-handled way. It's able to accomplish something that almost no other series that I can think of, at least, has truly done. It's able to bridge that maturity, going from something that's a lot more lighthearted, cute, and fun, to something that's extremely dark, mature, and emotional. Something that's intense as hell like this, but make it feel natural in its execution in every way and aspect. It's so exquisite, to use that word. It's just so excellently handled that it's hard to believe at times. And again, that the one moment that really makes you feel for it is, in a lot of ways, the moment at the very beginning of season 3 with what happens with Adamai, and and how he goes into not only betraying them but kidnapping and everything. And you realize that this isn't even the same show from seasons 1 and 2, but at the same time, it is. It's like it's so much more mature than either of those first 2 seasons. So much darker. But at the same time, you're still reminded that, yeah, it still fits. It still feels natural. And it's shocking to think about it. But it's like so intense in the very beginning of season 3, and it's hard to believe when you look back on it, but it's true. And so that's, again, why I love Wakfu. It's another reason. The content is so excellently handled in terms of how it bridges maturity throughout the series. How you go from one side to the complete opposite. But again, just like with a real-life bridge, and that's why I'm using that term, bridging maturity. Like a real-life bridge, you go from one end to the other, and they're completely different sides of things, but the bridge in the middle helps that path feel natural. Helps it feel like it was earned, like you really feel it made its way to that point in a really logical and believable way. So, for those of you who have seen Wakfu, and if you haven't, I really don't know why you're watching these unless you want to get a real taste for the series before you check it out. For those of you who have watched it, tell me in the comments below, what do you agree with this? What do you think about the bridging maturity and the content and how it goes from kind of one side to the other in terms of being more cute and friendly and nice and all of that at the beginning, but becoming super mature and even frightening at points by the end of this series we've got so far. And for those of you who haven't watched Wakfu, what other shows do you know that really handle this well, where the maturity level really progressively gets higher and higher as the series goes on in a very natural feeling way? In the meantime, tell me your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, thank you so much. I already said that. I'm repeating myself now. I'm losing it. Call me at the crazy house or something. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.